And we should be live on the Junius Maltby Channel. Welcome back to the extemporaneous, unscripted ramblings of a madman as we make an attempt to eviscerate and disembowel the mainstream media, the lies, all the garbage and the trash that they try to fill our heads with, the distractions. So much to talk about, as usual. Too much. There's really just too many things to discuss. But I will throw some tips your way for later when this program concludes. If you want to watch something interesting, and I sent it to a lot of friends today, a lot of contacts. It was I don't know if you have Spotify. If you don't have Spotify, that's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. I'm not on there. Mrs. Maltby has it because it's how we get some of our music. But there is a very good interview regarding the vaccine. Now, I'm putting this in here early because I want people to hear it. It was on the Joe Rogan program, and he interviewed a doctor. What was the doctor's name? Hold on, let me find it for you real quick. Dr. Peter A. McCullough. McCullough? I don't know how to pronounce that last name. It's a Scottish name, I'm sure. McCullough. McCullough. Board certified cardiologist. I think he's an immunologist. Very brilliant individual. Part of a lot of the scholastic side of things when it comes to medicine and studying it. He want to talk about eviscerating and disemboweling the vaccine narrative. This guy does it. Dr. Peter McCullough. It's episode 1747 on the Joe Rogan program. And I'm just telling you, it's a good listen. Give it a shot. Keep going. The whole thing. It really picks up at about 30-minute mark. I mean, you think I've got long videos. These are 3-hour interviews sometimes, 2 hours. I don't spend a lot of time over there, but I'll tell you, this was worth it. It's a good one. It talks about the spike proteins, the mRNA, myocarditis, endocarditis, pericarditis, all the itises that hit the heart and what's happening and just some of the dangers that surround it. Really brilliantly put together. Check it out. Forward it. Send it to all of your booger-eating, window-licking, mask-wearing friends, the people that still believe this crap. Send it to them. Hit it. Glad everyone's here. Good to see the channel members here. We're going to talk about, obviously, inflation. It's still making the news. Believe it or not, it's still making the news. Causing friction. You got people in politics fighting. They're about to make it worse. I mean, come on. Brandon has destroyed it. I mean, it's amazing. You got to blame both parties. Really, you do. But it truly is remarkable how such a feeble, anemic, weak, frail, translucent like an onion that's been cooked a little too long, or just right, almost clear-skinned, port wine-stained, geriatric kleptomaniac psychopath, schizo executive branch leader, Brandon, how this guy, as incompetent and weak and feeble as he is, was able to derail and destroy the economy at such an incredible velocity and in ways that are truly unrivaled by anyone. He's done a remarkable job. He's number one when it comes to his ability to destroy the economy. Now, if you guys can hear me, the mic should be fine. I'm getting another thing. Turn your volume up if you could, because the volume on my end, Bill, looks great. And I don't want to blast your minds or your ears with the speaker. It's right up against my head, this microphone. Anyways, inflation. Give me a sound check just in case. If you guys give me a thumbs up if you can hear me good. If not, thumbs down. But if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up on the screen. Most of you guys, I think, can hear it okay. But good to see you anyway, Bill. You're the best. One of the good channel members. See the coin after your name. And the wrench. Appreciate all of your work, all that you do, my friend. Now let's keep talking about this inflation because it's we haven't talked about it enough lately. I feel like we haven't really done a whole lot of videos on this. Just kidding. You guys know we have. There's a lot to really look at with it today, a lot of headlines. One of the funny things, though, can we start with, and I don't, I call him Willy Wonka as a joke sometimes. He's kind of a goofy guy, this Elon Musk character. But we do talk about him on the channel. And you got to hand it to the guy. Let's just hand it to him. I want to hand him a boss baton because he did a really good job going after one of my least favorite American politicians. I can't stand her. I just cannot stand Elizabeth Warren. There's nothing redeemable about her. She's just a pile of trash. It literally represents everything on the left and the progressive side of things and the Marxists and the Democratic Party that I just don't care for. She got to where she is by accident. She's not, I don't believe that the woman has any knowledge of economics, taxes, anything in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, the way our government's designed to work, the way it's supposed to work. The woman's so psychotic, she tried to fake her own lineage, earning her the nickname Pocahontas. She's not Native American. Not at all. She's a nutcase. She's nuts. She's crazy. She was trying to get votes. That's it. Nobody realized that's what she was trying to do. Now, he called her Senator Karen today. Elon Musk called her this after she claimed he was freeloading off everyone else. I just want to read the tweets about it because he drops the mic on this woman. He just slams her very well. I want you to read exactly how he put it. We'll just go down to the tweets itself. We'll find out. There's actually a picture of the tweets. Where's the pictures of the tweets, my friend? I just saw them earlier. Oh, maybe it was on my phone. So she said, this is what she tweets. I'll just read it to you. She goes, let's change the rigged tax code so the person of the year will actually pay taxes and stop freeloading off everyone else. She wrote this in a tweet attacking Elon Musk, who, as you know, became time of the year's person for 2021. Musk wrote in response, like, stop projecting. And then he goes on to say, where is it at? And he left a link about her being a fraud following her claims of Native American ancestry. And there's a link to it. He left a link from this opinion piece in his tweet to her. And then he goes, you remind me of when I was a kid and my friend's angry mom would just randomly yell at everyone for no reason, added Musk. Please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen. So as you can see, that's a pretty good slap. It made Mrs. Maltby laugh pretty hard, calling her Senator Karen. And then, where's the other part? He goes, and if you open your eyes, this is a good one. This is a good one right here. Because he gets it on the economy side. He goes, and if you opened your eyes for 2 seconds, you would realize I will pay more taxes than any American in history this year. If I were him, I would post that. I would actually post how much I pay in taxes. Absolutely. To just even rub it in their faces even more. But he goes here, don't spend it all at once. Oh, wait, you already did. So he knows a little bit more about these things than we do. I mean, than a lot of the people. Not we. I think you guys are on point with this. You guys get it about how much they're spending. Of course, President Brandon is trying to spend even more now. They're putting together another spending package because the other one didn't destroy the dollar enough. There's not enough inflation. It's not a big enough problem yet. So they figured they could just print more money. Because as you know, Brandon is so dementia-ridden. He's so hysterically confused and delusional that he thinks, and he even stated this in speeches, he thinks that if he prints off more money and does these things, that it will, in fact, cause less inflation. It won't cause it at all. It'll help the economy. It'll make inflation go away. That's the confusion that we live in. That's insanity. Insanity. But let's get to some of those stories today. But we need to revisit a few things. Because I've heard this. I've said it. I've been frustrated. I think everyone is. What moves the gold prices? We're going to go back to this for a minute because, again, this is a stacking channel in its roots and origins. But before we get into talking about inflation, the CPI, and some of the headlines and the news, let's do a little background reading if we have the time. I've got a cup of tea here. I've got all the time in the world. I've got my channel members and friends here in the chat entertaining one another. And if you notice, today is a subscriber only, not members only, but it's a subscriber only chat day. The only people that can be in the chat commenting and talking and discussing these things are people who are indeed subscribed to the channel. I didn't even know that was an option until today. When I was setting this video up, I saw the link for it and I was like, oh, we'll do that. We'll see how this works. Now let me have a sip of tea here and then we'll get back into this. Trevor Ham for the super chat, my friend. Thank you very much. If you have anything to say, go ahead and add it. I'll read it out loud for you. I'm just enjoying my, I think it's Vietnamese tea from Silver and Gold Spartan, who sent this up. Pretty good stuff. There we go. It's a good tea. Good tea. Now, what moves gold prices? The price of gold is moved by a combination of supply and demand, right? We know this. I know this is basic stuff, but let's just get to it for a second. Supply and demand, investor behavior. Seems simple enough. Yet the way these factors work sometimes together is counterintuitive. For instance, many investors think gold of as an inflation hedge. that has some common sense plausibility as paper money loses value as more is printed. We're going to read that part again. Let's get to the, I got to read a thank you for a super chat. I got Rusty Shackelford throwing one down. He goes, Senator Warren is a museum specimen, a version of Karen. A museum specimen version of Karen. Yes, I hope in the future when the people laugh at NPC leftists that she'll be stuffed and exhibited. Absolutely. Oh, she is. She's like the quintessential, like the queen of Karens. Those images of her screaming. One of the most cringe things about her ever is when she walks onto that stage during a presidential election or whatever, and she's got her stiff arms. It was memed to oblivion. Just a very uncomfortable looking. I mean, she just looks like a psychotic librarian. No offense to the librarians out there. But again, I mean, just everything about her. It's the physical manifestation. It's like, it's almost as if communism makes women uglier or something like that. I don't know. She just looks like a wreck. She's so eaten up with the cancer of socialism and progressivism that they end up looking like that. They always end up looking like that. Just wretched creatures. Anyways, I got to move on. I got to get that out of my head. Very important part here before we get into all of this. Now, remember, paper money loses value the more it's printed, right? Or when the supply of that money goes up. And really simply put, we've been talking about this for a decade on this channel. Think about it. The more dollars out there in circulation, they're all competing for a certain amount of goods and services. And there's a very limited amount of gold, the supply of which expands very slowly, very arduously, consumes a lot of resources and fuel and labor. It's a liquidity anchor. It's the unit of account, medium of exchange, the ultimate extinguisher of debt since the beginning of time, 7,000 years, right? You have gold right there. You know, periodic table of elements, only so much of it. And you got these governments that now create money, not only print it. They don't just print it. They just, wave these magic wands at the Fed and it just becomes existing in the computer space and without even printing it. It's just digits on a screen. Because you know that not all of the US dollars that are, quote, in circulation or part of the money supply are actually printed. There's actually a measurable percentage of them, the largest percentage of them that's out there are not in print. That means they're not in physical form. If I'm not mistaken, and I know I probably am, this is inaccurate, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was only, one of you might be able to find the actual date on this. I thought it was around 3 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, in actual physical cash. And I could be completely wrong on that, but I thought there was the amount that's in print is considerably smaller than the actual quoted money supply that exists out there that's in circulation. And that's, considering all the money that you guys see being sent to and from in your bank accounts, in your Venmo, paying your bills digitally, all these things that take place digitally, on credit cards. There's a lot of, quote, US dollar currency that's not printed. But that doesn't mean that they're not in supply. They're still there. People have them in their accounts and such. It's flowing through the economy, right? Now, the more of them that there are out there seeking to settle, even Marx has thought this, in sound money, or a lot of times just the fact that they exist and that they're going up, there's more of them competing and chasing after a smaller amount of gold. Naturally, with supply and demand, the price of those assets like gold and silver go up because the supply of gold is relatively constant. As it happens, gold mining doesn't add much to the supply from year to year, as you can see here. So, we know that to be true. It's pretty much an accepted, economic fact, and it's been discussed and debated, but it's very, 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 very true that gold is viewed this way by many in both sides of the political economic spectrum, whether left or right. It's not always exact. I think there's dynamics that take place within unique time periods, within certain economies. I mean, every time period is different when it comes to demographics that are made up of them, the technology that exists at the time. And we are at our own unique little juncture in history, and it's different than it was in the 30s. But certain economic principles and laws like supply and demand and the way money flows, the way people interact with stores of labor, certain things are essentially cemented into, I don't know if you want to call them kind of like universal laws or something. They exist the way they are. In human behavior, it kind of follows certain patterns. We behave a certain way with certain things. And now gold doesn't always correlate, it seems like, with the inflation in the timelines that we think it should. Like lately, inflation's been top of the news, screaming white hot. Literally, the words out of CNN's mouth, and we'll get to it later, is out of control. Out of control inflation, ladies and gentlemen. That's the words coming from the media now. And I know a lot of you, as well as myself, are thinking, well, why aren't, you'd think if we're having the worst inflation in 40 years, out of control inflation, surging inflation, you would think that gold, being it's supposed to correlate so closely with it, that it would have some type of reaction. And it's just not having the reaction that we would think is in the immediate sense. Now, again, this opens up a lot of room for discussion on other things like price manipulation. You've got a lot of that taking place with the Fed, the bank, central banks, the Treasury, all of them. There's obviously some room to discuss that there. But also there's competing classes now. There's different technologies or things that have come onto the world stage that could be diverting a significant amount away from gold and silver. We've seen the birth of the now $2+ trillion, I think it's $2 trillion crypto space, which you could only assume that a large portion of that market cap, we've talked about market cap on this channel, we did a whole video on it, you would think some of that would have found itself in metals had it not found itself in the blockchain world, the crypto world at this time. But I still think there's a significant upside for both, but especially metals right now. Again, we're going to talk about and bring up some more inflation stuff in a minute. That's the main topic here. But I wanted to revisit this because I think a lot of you have the same question I have. Is like, well, what are metals doing right now? And I'm confident that it's much like Peter Schiff has discussed for years as like the beach ball held underwater. It's just, it'll rocket to the surface and blast through it. And it'll move in ways that people least expect it to when they least expect it to. You see, the wheels are already coming off. CNN called it right for once. The fake news CNN today, with the headline that's going to come up in a minute, you'll see it. Out of control. Inflation's out of control. Now, there's a lot of words, as you can see on the screen. A lot of discussion. This was just from Provident Metals on talking about inflation and gold's counter-cyclical relationship. And again, there's people that would disagree with this, but the purchasing power of the dollar as it decreases, thanks to inflation, it doesn't buy as much as it should. We're seeing that across the board. None of you can disagree. Everyone agrees, right? You can't disagree with that. Everything from 12% to 40%, depends what product you're looking at. Some things are 100% more. Labor costs are going up. Materials prices are going up. All of this being discussed as linked to inflation, right? Now, unlike paper currency and stocks, physical precious metals like gold and silver are resistant to inflation. This is what they're talking about here. Because they derive their value differently than paper currency. The value of the dollar is dependent upon the actions of the Federal Reserve, central banks, global factors, general health of the economy. Well, based on all of those measures, the dollar should be worth zero. We all know that. That's its inherent value, zero. Central banks print more currency when they believe the economy needs extra money in order to stimulate loans and growth. Circulating more paper money, more paper currency, means a considerable increase in the supply of dollars in the economy, without a subsequent rise in demand that allows for people to demand more dollars in a more successful economy. The value of each individual dollar gradually decreases over time. I would say that they're not gradually decreasing anymore. We're seeing precipitous drops in the purchasing power. And I don't care what the dollar index says anymore. I mean, come on. They could leave the dollar index. The people that put that up there, the same people that probably controlled the bond ratings, the AAA bonds, AA bonds, all that stuff that took place in 07, 08, like AIG, the underwriters. Who cares what the digits on a screen tell us are of the US dollar index and the dollar strength when everything that you're going out to buy with those dollars is costing 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% more? Do you really care on the world stage how many yen or renminbi or yuan or baht or rubles you can flip for your dollar when you're sitting in your own country, wherever you are? I mean, even if you're in New Zealand or Australia, if your currency is dying, do you really care what its global strength index is or what its exchangeable rate is on the Forex market or anything? I don't care. No, you don't. People are downright struggling in the United States because of inflation right now. Fixed income pensioners, Social Security check cashers, the elderly, you know who they are. We've talked about the demographic. It seems like Junius Maltby, the only guy out there that's put a video out linking and then sharing with you information from others, experts, not myself. Again, I find this information from others on how inflation affects those vulnerable classes of people. The Democrats aren't doing anything about it. They don't care. They truly don't care, and they're the ones that are causing it right now. We've been saying it for years, and the thing is, the most vulnerable are suffering from this. They didn't prepare adequately for this, and it's only going to get worse. We've been looking at that. It's going to be significantly worse than it is. I mean, every single day it seems like the headlines are getting a little bit more intense when it comes to how bad this is. Now, I wanted to get to inflation can cut into a portfolio just as much as any other form of risk. The declining value of the dollar can put pressure on stocks as well as savings accounts and bond holdings. Now, Russia's actually warning their own country, and I got an article pulled up about this, on how inflation could lead to the next world economic crisis, and it could be a bad one. Gold, silver, and other precious metals can be a safe way of avoiding these pitfalls and keeping a wise investor immune from the forces of hyperinflation and inflation. We're not even at hyperinflation yet. Remember, that's significant. Did a whole video on that once. It doesn't even scare me. It's the inflation that leads to hyperinflation that should scare you. Remember, inflation destroys 96% of the currency's value from present. And hyperinflation only erases the other 4% until you're at zero. So really, we got to catch this early. You got to get ahead of this sickness. The people that don't see inflation, this reminds me of a point I wanted to make earlier. The people that don't see inflation, you know who they are. There's channels, there's commenters, people that leave comments down below, people on the news, people out there that you meet in public. You might even have family that don't see inflation the way you see it. They didn't call it, they didn't predict it, they tried to counter it the whole time, telling you they don't see it, it's not coming, don't worry about it, we don't see it yet. You remember this, for the last year, we were battling in the trenches. The Junius Maltby Channel was like a voice in the wilderness with a few others, you guys in the chat, and of course, the experts that we read out there discussing inflation. Meanwhile, many were saying it wasn't happening, wasn't coming, wasn't true. And I've told you guys this enough times. You got to take those people, write down their names, know who they are, so you never listen to them again about anything. Wad their opinions up into a ball of tissue like used snot and just throw it into a wastebasket, because that's where their opinion belongs, in the trash, in the garbage, with the refuse. Now, these people, we've got to talk about them for a minute. The people that don't see this, they can't feel it. It's like they're sick, or it's as if they're in a house. Let's put it this way. Let's come up with another analogy. They're in a house. It's on fire. They can't smell the smoke. They can't feel the heat. They can't see it. They have no senses to alert them of the danger in which they find themselves. Meanwhile, you're telling them the fire alarm's going off. There's smoke. There's a fire. We need to get out of here. And they're fighting you on it. They're telling you, no, I'm not going outside. I don't need to. I'm comfortable in my house. I'm not leaving. Look, you're crazy. There's no fire. There's no smoke. I don't smell anything. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. It gets to a point you got to just get out. You got to help yourself. You can't help these people. All right? These people that don't believe inflation, they don't believe inflation and the correlation to the prices of goods and services and the CPI and how all this works, food and energy, all of it. The people that don't get it, that still believe the dollar index is it, the dollar is king, these dollar apologists, these spokesmen for the dollar, they're never going to get it. They're just not going to. If they haven't got it by now, they're not going to. They're not going to grasp these concepts ever. They are beyond hope at this point. Thank you, Bill Spencer, for the super chat. I see it. He goes, over in Turkey, an ounce of gold costs some 25,000 Erdogan bucks today, going rocket ship nicely. Yes, their currency is dying, and of course, gold is reacting the way it will always, and the way it should, and the way it will when that happens to the dollar. The same exact behavior will be demonstrated. It just takes a while. Now, let's keep going here. Let's keep going. Where was I? Here we go. What moves gold prices? We already saw that. Inflation, talking about it. All right. I wanted to time travel with you guys for a second. I pulled up some old articles because they were kind of warning of the dangers of inflation. And they also discuss this situation in which Powell was essentially acting in a way or saying things that were more tolerant of inflation than we otherwise would be. And we criticized back then when this was happening. This is from September of 2020. New tolerance for lofty inflation is dangerous. This article, Jeffrey Mount, kind of calling out the Fed. And again, September of 2020, Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell, yeah, I'm going to say his full name, Jay Powell recently announced a policy for tolerance of higher than average inflation rates for short periods of time, transitory periods of time. Thank you, Jeff E., saying it can't happen here. Yeah, it can't happen here. Although the language has changed, the actions really haven't. Remember this? We were talking about how they started demonstrating behavior. I wonder if the public or the mainstream media has forgotten this. They were essentially telling us that inflation was good. We'd have to get used to it, get ready. This is okay. They kept interest rates for near zero for a long time. And eventually, they just left it alone. And they didn't act quick enough. Now they're trying to change their tune and react to the very situation that they caused. But I just want to let you know, you got to look in the past a little bit here and realize all of this was set in motion by policies, we've told you this, by people who have names, jobs, and titles, responsibilities, oversight. They caused this. They tried to tell us it wasn't a problem, that nothing bad was going to happen. There was also no clarification as to how long they would tolerate inflation or how high they would let inflation climb in order to achieve an average inflation rate of around 2%. Again, they didn't get it. They got it all wrong. And it's getting uglier by the day. Russia was talking about this. This is from September 2021. So the September of this year. The other article was a year prior. Bank of Russia. Out of control inflation could ignite a new global financial crisis. Whole article. And I think we actually discussed this recently. Discussing how there could be indebted countries struggling to service their debt. Significant financial crisis will begin in the global economy in the first quarter of the year 2023. One comparable to the 2008-2009 crisis with a long period of uncertainty and a protracted recovery. So Central Bank of Russia, they're calling for some serious problems coming up from out of control inflation and a new global financial crisis. Well, I believe that we're in the beginnings of it. And I would trust their assessment over this before any of the U.S. media outlets. Now, inflation's out of control. This is a CNN article. It's time for the Fed to raise interest rates. It's an opinion piece, but still. CNN Business Perspectives by Dana M. Peterson. Inflation out of control. It's time for the Fed to raise interest rates. Unbelievable. It's like CNN suddenly panicking over inflation. It now tops the list of complaints among U.S. consumers. Prices for everything from necessities like food, energy and shelter, luxury goods, autos, vacations, everything's climbing. Amid this worsening challenge, Americans are looking for some relief. Well, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. Bill Spencer, thank you, my friend, for the super chat. I see it. He says, accelerate. Yes, Bill, accelerate nicely. In November, the the CPI, a key measure of inflation, it's a key measure of inflation, climbed 6.8% year over year. And the core CPI, which excludes food and energy, rose 4.9% year over year. Wrong. Think of this. These people don't even get it, my friends. They don't get it. It's like the thermometer's broken. Hold fast, Joe. Thank you for the super chat. He says, early Merry Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas to you too. Let me show you something real quick here. Let me pull this up. Come on. Let's go. ShadowStats. I've been meaning to bring this pulled up again. We got to. Alternative data. Inflation. Here we go. All right. Let me just get this up for you guys. Ready? Okay. Here we go. Consumer inflation and the consumer inflation official versus ShadowStats 1980 and the 1990 numbers. I'm going to get both of them up on the screen for you. Top one, we'll scroll down so you can see both. Okay, here you go. So the top one, you know what? Let's make it bigger. Give me a second here. Let's get it bigger. You guys can see the whole screen. There you go. All right. Consumer inflation, official versus ShadowStats. This is important stuff. You know what's funny is this was on none other than Tucker Carlson the other day was talking about this very thing, as well as with Peter Schiff. They were talking about this, and I've been making this point and showing you this exact chart and this point for over a year now. So let's revisit it because, hey, it's making the news now. Now Fox News is talking about it. Bill Spencer, thank you again for a super chat. Have a great and very white Merry Christmas. CNN, choke on it. Expletive. Yes, CNN should choke on it. Get rid of them. Fake news all the way. This top chart we're looking at is based on the 1990 measures. Again, this is what the government used to go by. This is how they used to do things. All right. You can see that on the 1990 numbers, the official CPIU is in red. And they've got us around 6% or so. Then you got the blue. This is the actual inflation based on those numbers, the old numbers, and the way it would be. It's around a little over 10%. This is the 1990s numbers, right? Now I want to go down here. Look at this. Again, this is why this is the worst inflation that we're experiencing right now. Is the worst inflation. This is the point Carlson and Schiff were making the other night. You're witnessing the worst inflation in U.S. history. Think of that for a minute. Worst inflation in U.S. history. Because it's actually, if you go by the real numbers and the numbers they were basing them back then, this is the worst. Shaft-driven metal, thanks for the super chat. He goes, it's kind of awkward trying to explain this to coworkers of mine, that they will probably never see retirement or social benefits like other generations. Very difficult to even consider retirement or what life will be like for some people in the future. It's going to be devastating and difficult. Absolutely. It's going to be difficult next year. This isn't even something that's we're going to have to wait for. This is happening in real time now, and it's happening every day. In just a span of months, people's lives have been made much more difficult. There is nobody that's gotten pay raises to compete with the rate that their currency is being devalued and debased. The government's destroying it. The cost of everything's going up. People are going to be hurt. This is going to cause political ramifications, one can only hope. It's going to cause damage, hopefully, to the Democratic Party. E.G. Johnson, super chat. Thank you, my friend. He goes, Junius, when you see some central banks accumulate gold while others act like they don't like gold, do you suspect many are secretly accumulating? Absolutely. Do I suspect that many are secretly accumulating? Oh, yeah. They sell it out the front door. They buy it in the back door. They're spoofing. They're definitely accumulating positions. And they're not dumb, and they don't lose. They know what's going on. They know the game that's being played. Consumer inflation, official versus ShadowStats, 1980 based alternate. Here you go. These are the year-to-dates through November of 2021. Just wanted to show you this again. Again, the blue, if we were to go by the 1980 based numbers, the way inflation was calculated back then before they started getting all shady on us, where are we sitting at? We're over 15%. Well over 15%. Some are saying 16, 16, 17. And I've been saying this. This is what I've been telling you guys. What are they reporting? Just over 5. Just over around 6%. Nothing big. Not a big deal. Huge difference there, ladies and gentlemen. It's about a 10% difference. Can you imagine? Imagine what... See, the thing is, the pundits, like CNN and all the clowns out there, they don't even know the real numbers. Imagine if they really did. The public outcry. The funny thing is the price is reflected. You guys see it because you share them with me on the channel, and we look at articles. Nothing's going up by 5 or 6%. Everything's going up by 12 to 30, 40, 50, 60%. Natural gas and propane, things like that, 100%. A lot of things are going up well into the triple-digit, double-digit percentages. Nothing's moving up in the single-digit percentages, which only tells me that they're lying. Their 5 and 6% is not accurate. According to the 1990 numbers, we're around 11%. If you go to the 1980 numbers, we're around 16%. It's definitely not 5%. Schiff covered this. Carlson covered this. This was on national news the other day. You guys have been hearing it on the Junius Maltby Channel since the channel existed. We've been talking about hedonics, the fuzzy numbers, the Chris Martenson discussion on that, where he really blows the lid off how the government calculates inflation data. And I tried to cover that over the years in this channel to help you guys out. Now, regardless, the media is kind of in a panic. CNN's making headlines calling on the Fed to do something. I don't know why you'd want the very people crashing this bus to still be at the wheel making any decisions. It's funny that CNN calls on them to stop it when they're the ones actually accelerating. They're the drunk guy at the wheel. They're the idiots that have been driving us off a cliff to begin with. So why would you call on them to do anything? What we need the Fed to do is stop. The Treasury needs to stop. We need them to resign, to quit. They need to not be in charge anymore. We need to end the Fed, right? Now here's Kudlow. I remember watching him back during the major financial crisis, 12 years ago. But here's Larry Kudlow. He goes, we do not need more government spending, which will lead to higher inflation. Absolutely. I think everyone knows that. You know that. I know that. But meanwhile, Biden's trying to, Brandon, right now, to get another $3 trillion spent. Another $3 trillion. These inflationary policies, if left open, will literally destroy the economy. Those are strong words coming from a veteran guy on Wall Street. A guy that wears pinstripe suits, by the way, which is pretty boss. I like it. Mrs. Maltby won't let me get one.
Wait, what?
Do I need to get a pinstripe? Remember I talked about getting a pinstripe suit? You thought it looked kind of old manish.
No.
I think they're gangster. I want one.
Because you wanted the ones where the stripes were really wide apart. And you
No, I like that. I want one like that. I want a nice little Dago Wap pinstripe suit.
No.
Mm-hmm. I want to look like one of Capone's guys, like a gangster. Get a little Tommy gun, walk around with it. Like, what are you doing? Hey, I'm here to collect. I'm here to collect the rent. What are you doing?
Why don't you tell them about how you messed up my eBay bid?
Just taking a sip of tea. Mrs. Maltby wants me to do a comedic relief break here with a true story. This is a true story. Want to know how bad we are at managing things? Well, here it is. I was trying to buy Mrs. Maltby a sweet little Christmas gift. And she likes kitties. I like kitties. But recently we had watched a pretty good film on an artist that we like called Louis Wayne, a British artist who did like paintings and drawings of kitties, cats and such. And they became postcards in England at the turn of the century during the Victorian era about. And you can still find them as collectibles, these postcards. And I found one on eBay with these little kitties on it. And I thought, wow, Mrs. Maltby would like this one. I'm going to bid on it. So I bid on it. And I kept track of it. And every once in a while the bid would go up. And I'll bid on it again, whatever. I'll pay a little bit. She's worth it. She's Mrs. Maltby. She's beautiful. She's the best. She's my best friend. And she's sitting over there. She's cross-stitching with a sweet little smile. And I'm thinking, I'm going to keep bidding on this thing. So it was like this morning over breakfast. I had the day off, believe it or not, for once. And I'm sitting there drinking a cup of coffee. And I get a notification that I'd been outbid on this postcard again. And the auction closes very soon. So I bid again. Like $1 up. And then I kind of forgot about it. And I went back to doing what I was doing, and the auction ended. And I didn't know it, but I had lost. And Mrs. Maltby sends me a screenshot that she had won this item. She's like, check it out. I won this postcard of Louis Wayne. It's the exact one, the only one, the exact same one from the same seller on eBay that I was bidding on. And it turns out Mrs. Maltby and myself were literally bidding against one another, dollar for dollar, for who knows how long.
You caused inflation in this house.
It was kind of ridiculous. Actually, I think about it now, it still pisses me off. I wonder what you could have got it for if we didn't do this to each other.
Know.
It's ridiculous. They do go for that, though. They go for, 20,
yeah,
30
but
bucks.
I don't think it would have because it was just you and I.
It's ridiculous. There had to be someone. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Maltby and I cause each other harm by bidding against one another. I don't know if this happens or how often this happens.
What are the chances?
God, it ticks me off. But anyways, you got the beautiful little... lucky seller. Lucky for him. Little does he know. A husband and wife in the same house were bidding against each other to buy his postcard. Whatever. You got it. It's coming. Anyways, let's get back to the news here. That is a good example for inflation, Mrs. Maltby, though. Dollars chasing postcards. So more dollars. Yeah, and then Martin Kaminsky in the chat giving me some advice saying, Junius, you don't bid until the last 15 seconds with a mega bid. I know. I wasn't really doing mega bids, though. I was going up like $1 a time. Yeah, I tried. Here we go. Let's say, back to the Kudlow article. It goes, Save America, Kill the Bill. Today produced another nail in the coffin for Joe Biden's big government socialist tax and spend and regulate, the Green New Deal and entitlements with no workfare and generally policies that will completely sink the economy. Namely, blockbuster PPI producer price report jumping 0.8% in November, well above the consensus. All these prices going up. Look at this. Energy, food, construction services. Look at this. Again, remember I told you earlier? Look at this. 9.6%, 11.6%, 44%, 7%, 12%, 26.5% for goods, ex food. Energy, 24%. See that? Nothing's going up by little bits. It's huge, massive amounts. Pressures came from every type of good, with finished consumer goods increasing 16.5%, which is exactly where we said inflation really is over the past 6. Remember, they're trying to tell you that it's 5 or 6%, though, right? They're lying to you. This is the fastest wholesale inflation rate since 1974. As a matter of fact, I'm going to beat it's worse than that. It's worse. This is the worst inflation in U.S. history. The wholesale prices measured rose 9.6% in November from a year ago, the fastest pace on record. And it's worse than that because they're not giving us the real numbers. Again, and this is, if they're telling you it's like 20%, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. Wholesale prices were not up 9.6%. They're probably up 20%. You got to double it. These people are lying. They're idiots. They're not using the right metrics, the right measures. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And it's only just begun. And then you've got this nut job, Brandon, vowing to raise taxes only for the rich. But inflation for the elderly is the cruelest tax of all. Yes, it's the hidden tax, the inflation tax. They're reaching into your pocket. They're stealing your wealth every single day. That's what they love about it. They can just print the money off. You don't think they don't know this? They know how this works. They're just going to print it off. Oh, but remember that one media whore? She said that's just a rich people problem. It's just rich people screaming inflation because they're not worth as much. She doesn't get it. Again, economic ignorance. They're infected by it. It's a disease. It's a disease. Ignorance is a disease in this country, especially when it comes to knowledge on how this stuff works. Inflation's other victims, wage earners. Wages went up over the last year, but less than the inflation for most workers. Everybody took a pay cut. Everybody took a pay cut. Social Security only raised their benefit by 5.9%, which was the most in 40 years. Remember that? But it wasn't enough. Still wasn't enough. The real people in this country that work, that are grinding away on the street, blue collar people like you, people like me, people like they get dirty and sore, that have to go home and take a bath because their back hurts, guys that have holes burned into their shirts because of welding slag. You know who you are. Guys with black grease under their fingertips or sawdust in their collar, wood chips in their pockets, swollen knuckles and calloused hands. The badasses. The guys that build, create, construct. None of them are getting the raises to compensate for this. Everyone's paying more out the nose, writing more checks. Everything's going up. Even the electrical bills are going up. It's destroying people's savings, their bank accounts, their checking accounts, everything. And look at this. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Biden will pay a high price for bread and circuses. Voters aren't amused by Washington's political clown show, which is rapidly raising the cost of living. This is from the Wall Street Journal. They're calling it a clown show. Bread and circuses. Are they tuning into us? They're using our words. They're using our words. I'm surprised they didn't censor themselves. How could the Wall Street Journal use the word clown? Honk, honk, honkler, honkler. It's clown world. It's clown. Ladies and gentlemen, the price of bread in the United States. This is all you need to know. The price of bread has jumped 15% since the start of 2020. That's all you need to know. There you go. And the ticket to a modern day circus or an NBA game, up 37% since the last season. Ladies and gentlemen, they're destroying the U.S. dollar. And I don't care. I don't care what the dollar index is. You keep getting the same clown on here, the same little buffoon jumping. Oh, look at the dollar gain strength today. Da, 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 da. Go back to your classroom, kid. Who let you out? Recess isn't until later. Go put your helmet on. You're not supposed to be out of your classroom. Let your blue helmet on. Stop licking the window, too, while you're at it. Anyways. Houston, come in, Houston. Houston consumers and businesses hit by 40-year high inflation. Everything went up. Again, nationwide, big problem. It's everywhere. It's not just where you are. It's everywhere. It's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse. Hitting everybody. But ladies and gentlemen, I know you're thinking, some of you think the same thing. You're like, well, Junius. We've all been stacking gold this whole time in preparation for this. And nothing, gold and silver aren't moving. I know that. Not moving yet. Some of them, I think silver or gold especially, it kind of beat this to the punch. It might have outran a little bit. It prepped it. It knew this was coming. But again, there's certain manipulations taking place, certain things beyond our control. And it's a waiting game. It's like that part that I've shared with you before in The Big Short. When Dr. Michael Burry's kind of knee deep in it and down 29%. Nothing's reacting the way he thought it was. Nothing was moving. He kept having to pay premiums on bonds that were just worthless. He was shorting the housing market, but the market was not reacting the way he thought it would and the time it should. And the same thing's happening with gold right now and silver. We're just not there yet. We're not wrong. We were just way, way, way early. You got to wait. You just got to wait until it collapses, until it burns to the ground, until the dollar's just absolutely just dysfunctional. Yeah, now the Fed's talking about raising rates. It's putting a little weakness on metals. The Fed's panicking. Let them panic. You don't need to panic because you've got the metal. And they want it, probably. They want it. They want all our wealth. The Fed's expected to take a very big step towards its first rate hike. This is going to throw the economy into probably a little bit of a chaos. The markets aren't going to like it, you see. They're not going to react that well. And it might get difficult. Might get different. The last time they started jacking rates up, it threw us into quite the debacle, if you recall. So we'll see what happens. Well, my friends, that's going to conclude today's discussion on the out-of-control inflation, which is exactly what it is. It's out of control. Their words, not mine. It's not transitory. It's not transitory at all. It's out of control. It's out of control. Their words, not ours. You saw the headlines. You've read the headlines. They're finally admitting it. And meanwhile, they don't even realize we were calling this the entire time. We knew it. We knew this was coming. And we prepared for it. And you wait and see. It's about to get worse. You will be vindicated. You will be validated. You guys were right. You called it. Give yourself a pat on the back. Thanks for tuning in to the Junius Maltby Channel tonight. Thank you all. Channel members, Patreon members. Thank you, Lisa Willis, for going back and watching the raid from the other day and adding it up, tallying up the raid amount of silver. Everyone, big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to Lisa Willis, channel member and raid accountant. We broke over 550 ounces, I believe. We did almost half a Comex bar, over 500 plus ounces of silver that night were taken off the market by all of you in the channel. So strong work, each and every one of you. And Kalna, favorite praying mantis, thanks for the super chat. As always, thank you. Appreciate the support. Thank you all for being part of this broadcast, this live episode of the Junius Maltby Channel. Thanks for tuning in as usual. Hope to see you again on the next one. And don't forget to hit the like down below, the little thumb up button. Share it, post it, spread the word, share the channel. Help us fight the shadow ban. We are indeed shadow banned. So any one of you that can share the video or post it someplace, it always helps out. Take care of yourselves and be well.